Hey, this is Ramon. Channel is Alpha 4. That's Alpha 4 IV, and this is part of my Bible study on Genesis. Just as a note, I plan to just do Genesis, not necessarily the other books. I might do the other books later, should this channel survive. But given the amount of views that I have, who knows if that's going to happen. Uh, but I will at least get through all of Genesis. So in this one, we get what's called the Table of Nations. I would give a summary, but there's not really much to summarize. So there are 71 nations of man, sometimes 70, depending on how you count. I'm not going to get into all of it because it would just be me naming different societies at that time. But it's an interesting way to see when this was written, based on what societies and nations are named. Because obviously, if this is before some of the founding of these nations, then they wouldn't be named. And if it's after after some of these nations have been destroyed, they wouldn't be named either. So you can really pinpoint when it was actually written versus when it was supposed to have been written. And you get some interesting stuff here. So you get first a very interesting command. You get the restatement of the basic command, which is be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. There's a two-part, and most people don't hear the second part. Most people only hear the first part. And the be fruitful and multiply stuff goes into a lot of deeper stuff later on with morality and ethics. But let's back up a little and let's hit some highlights from the Table of Nations. So you have Turkey, you have Egypt, you have Mesopotamia as the big ones that are named. You have the Hittites, you have the Greeks, you have certain cities even like Nineveh and Rhodes, and then you have Jerusalem. So you have certain areas being named right off the bat. You got Phoenicia. So you kind of get an idea of what time period is happening here. But you also get, which I think is very interesting, you get two interesting historical figures thrown in there out of nowhere. You get Nimrod, and you get two possible explanations for who Nimrod is. Now, to me, from my reading, Nimrod is very clearly Sargon of Akkad. Sargon founded Babylon, founded the Akkad language. Nimrod is supposed to have done both. Therefore, that's a perfect fit. But some biblical scholars say that this is actually Tuk-Luti Ninurta the First from 1300 BC, and he is the conqueror of Assyria. But a conqueror of Assyria is not a founder of Babylon, and a founder of Babylon and conqueror of many great Mesopotamian cities, and a uniter of the land. That is very clearly Sargon. Okay, it just is. So yeah, so you get this kind of like whole thing, and you get this like you get your first real hint of biblical humor. So like up till now, the Bible seemed really super serious, but once you realize there's jokes in here, you might want to go back and like see if maybe there's some other humor in the writing. For instance, there's a character in here in the name list called Peleg, and his name is to divide, and he's from the time when the nations were divided. So it's biblical humor. And if you go back to the names, you'll find that a lot of the names are actually the first thing that they did. So like my name would be weightlifter, or my name would be martial artist. So like it's kind of interesting that the profession is their name, the traveler is their name, the redeemer, the good guy, that's their name in Hebrew. So if you go back and you read the Odyssey, one of the key notes to helping you understand that everything that Odysseus is saying could be BS, could be him lying, is that every character that he meets, their name is their activity. So the runner, the jumper, the chariot rider, That's what their name is, compressed into a single Greek name. But stretched out and translated, it translates into whatever action they are described doing. So that's an interesting idea. I'm not saying that's what's going on here. I'm just saying it's an interesting thought. So that was chapter 10. Let's see what happens in chapter 11. Peace.